Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto Will is your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have un show magnifico esta tarde. We are going to have a magnificent show this afternoon. Folks, please remember before you even get started, give us that like on Facebook. Give us that thumbs up on YouTube. We cannot do this without your participation to make sure that we can go active and get more viewers in real time. Because, folks, you are the ones who make this program. So please remember to go ahead and give us that thumbs up right now on YouTube, that like on Facebook, that follow on Twitter. Don't forget to go to twitter.com/Egberto Willis. My handle is at Egberto Willis, at EGBERTO WILLIES. That is how we get the message out. We share, we share, we share. And what again do? We share. Anyhow, we are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard. Let's see. People are slow to get in today, but we have Melanie Keelan says, hey, everybody. Alistair Waters is in the house. She says, greeting to y'all. And Bridge MCP, yep. Hey, peeps. And AVQ just says, just got home right on time. How is it going? It's going great. We had a great show today at KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. In fact, I changed the story up. The things that we did in real time because, you know me, I get a good story that looks like it's important for what we're doing. And I said, I'm going to change things around and change the story. Restream not working? That's not good. I see some message in Restream from Facebook. I see some in there from Twitch, and I also see some in there from YouTube. So I'm not sure. Please verify. Please verify. Please verify. Please verify. Anyway, I hope you guys are intending to have a good weekend. I intend to have a very workful weekend, but since I love what I'm doing, it will be just fine. Anyhow, folks, as more people enter the dragon, before I really get started on all that we are going to talk about today, I just want you to take a look at, there's something that I heard on MSNBC today that makes me wonder if an indictment is really coming. It seems like both federal and local police forces, or I should say, security forces or people in charge of security, etc. It seems like they're getting ready to guard the New York courthouse, I guess, just in case El Señor Trump is indicted, which looks like he may get indicted in ¿Dónde? Nueva York, in New York. Anyhow, welcome aboard, Alistair Water. All right, saw you there again. Welcome aboard, E2247. Let's see what else we've got here. Para ver, they stopped after Rudnin. Oh, okay. What else have we got here? We have E2247 who says, today a federal judge ordered former Guy's attorney, Ivan Corcoran, to provide additional testimony as part of an investigation into the former president's handling of classified documents. And E2247 also says, finding concurrence communication with Wheat Sheaves about the Mar-a-Lago documents fell within a crime fraud exception. District Court has held that liar probably committed crimes with respect to those top secret documents, as we expected. Maywood says, good afternoon, everyone. How are we all doing this Friday afternoon? We're doing just fine, Senor Wood. And we have from our listener says, I see the check. Yes, I see the check too. You mean the check mark. Got you. And Bree says, AVQ, don't see your comments on FB. Just stopping in for a minute. Need to try and pick up my new glasses today. I'm wearing my old glasses. I don't know what's going to happen after the cataracts. Egberto, you see my comments on FB? No, Bridge. All I see are your comments on... Bridge, let's see if this is what's happening. I accidentally put two versions of the... Let's see if that's what's happening. Maybe I should delete that one. Okay, Bridge, I tell you what I'm going to do. I know why. I need to delete one of the instances of let's see if I don't think I can delete it, but I'll try. What's happening is that there are two instances of the two instances of the show on our page, but only one is connected to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete one instance if I can. Let's see if it allows me to trash it. And then that way everybody knows what instance to use. Yes, I just trashed it. Got it. All right, folks. If you are on Facebook, the Facebook page, there were two instances of the show. I got rid of the extra one. That's what occurred. All right. Now I think everybody will be seen. John Smith, welcome to Politics Done Right, said, so we should expect an indictment of President Biden for having classified documents for 6 years illegally. I'll touch on that a little bit. Let's not mix apples and oranges. When Vice President Pence, when President Biden found out that in boxes that they had, there were some classified documents there, they immediately contacted the FBI for them to come and take the stuff out. Okay, and then they opened their homes and say, have at it. Search to see if you find anything else. Donald Trump, on the other hand, lied about having these documents in his place of business. So he wouldn't be prosecuted for having classified documents accidentally. That's not what the prosecution for Trump will be whenever the federal government take over. It will be for lying about having classified documents, for telling them that they gave them everything when he knew everything was not there. And John Smith, you don't have to tell me, my brother, that that is false. You just have to read the news report. Read what the FBI did. Read what Biden did. Read all of that. You don't have to listen to me. And to claim that Trump had declassified the documents makes absolutely no sense. And I want you to think deeply about it. Don't allow the right to fool you. Hey, welcome, Paula Johnson. How you doing, my good friend? Hello, Egberto. It's been a minute, so good to be in the space today. This space today. Thank you for being here, Paula. I appreciate you being here as well. Bridge MCP says, Egberto Willis International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin on suspicions of war crimes such as an unlawful deportation of children and unlawful transfer of people from the territory of Ukraine. Great. John Smith said, I read that one already. New York indictment for Trump. Don't care about the sex scandal part of the allegations, but do care about the federal campaign finance violations. That's what it's likely going to be about. So I don't think we have anything to worry about that is somehow going to be a sex thing. I don't care about the sex thing either, nor should any of us care about people's private life. Okay. Anyway, at the KPFT show today, I was at I was playing, I interviewed Jolanda Jones about the HISD takeover by TEA. I wanted to talk to somebody who was on the board, who was on city council, and now who is a congresswoman, a representative in the state legislature. So I called her up and I said, hey, I need to talk to you about what's going on. And she said, okay, call me tomorrow because I'll have more time to spend with you on the subject. So I called her up, we did a Zoom interview and I played that. And while I was playing that at KPFT today, I am going for some coffee and here comes Mike Campbell. Now, I had interviewed Mike Campbell before on Medicare versus Medicare Advantage. He enumerated in that interview that I did with him, and I'll list that interview later on the blog when I write it. We enumerated why one should go with Medicare and not Medicare Advantage. Let me stop. If you have already chosen Medicare Advantage, if you're still in great health, you can still go back to Medicare and you would still be able to get an affordable Medigap to cover the 20% that Medicare does not cover. You would still be able to do that. However, if some people that are getting approached with Medicare Advantage now, sometimes it's the only option they have because of what what I call the terrorists in the healthcare industry have done. What have they done? They have ensured that the current Medicare stays at 80-20. They have ensured that the current Medicare doesn't cover eyes, ears, or dental, they are forced, even though Bernie Sanders is attempting to get rid of the 80-20. Medicare should be Medicare cover us all. You shouldn't have to buy a Medigap and all that crap. Should be all healthcare covered once you reach at 65, if that's what we're going to do. Now, the trick was this. Medicare Advantage charges the government more than the government spends on Medicare to take care of you. So the government spends less taking care of you through Medicare, standard Medicare, and you are still responsible for 20% of the bill, up to a certain amount, but 20% of the bill. So the private sector, the corporate thugs, have really done it by buying these politicians that allow them to bill a higher rate to the government for your care. And what they do is they divide people into groups of how sick they are. And ultimately, you are always sicker than you are when they're billing Medicare, but you're less sick when they're paying for your health care. They pay less to the provider of your healthcare, meaning your hospital, your doctor, etc., but they charge more to the government claiming you're sicker than you are. That's the scam. And then what they're able to do then is tell you, hey, guess what though? We can provide to you your Medicare Advantage without you having to pay anything. Your Medicare will pay your entire Medicare Advantage bill. But there's a caveat. You can only see the doctors that we tell you to see. Now, Kelsey has an interesting thing that they supposedly allow you to go to a few other doctors under certain circumstances, okay? But if you really want it doesn't charge you anything. They choose your doctors. They choose the type of healthcare you're going to get. They choose the type of medicine you're going to get. And if you have certain cancers that only the Mayo Clinic or our great institutions here would take care of, they'll tell you, sorry, it's not on the plan. It's not on the plan. And that's how Medicare Advantage work. It looks great up front. They take you to dinner. They take you to lunch. They give you a free membership to an athletic club. But if you have to get real good health care at some place like Herman or what's the other cancer center here, or in any part of the country, Mayo or whatever, you can. So in that light, I want to play this piece from you because this is a piece that I did just today. This guy drinking coffee said, hey, I was in Colorado and I got sick and I had to go to the emergency room. If you had Medicare Advantage, it would not have been as it turned out with this guy. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side. I'm here with KPFT supporter, KPFT volunteer, KPFT activist, all that good stuff. Brother Rick Campbell in the studio. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing well, Alberto. Sounds like you're doing okay today.
Well, we try. But, I interviewed you on sort of an impromptu interview because you started to talk about you choosing Medicare over Medicare Advantage, right? Mm-hmm. And you went through all the reasons why in that interview, and I'll tag that interview with this when I post this blog. But just in getting coffee together, you said, oh, Alberto, I was in Colorado and I had to go to the doctor. Tell me that story.
Well, try to make it real short. I've been to Colorado many times. This was the first time in my life I ever got altitude sickness. Mm-hmm. I went to the emergency room. Just a little background. My oxygen percentage of my blood was 82, which is pretty low. Boy, they took me right in. They didn't ask a question. They said, do you have Medicare? What's your insurance? They didn't have to make any phone calls. Now, again, like we said before, I have regular Medicare, and I have a what do you call it? The gap, Medigap.
Right, the Medigap, mm-hmm. Yes.
So I do not have an Advantage plan. So I did not have to get approval from my insurance company to get treated. They got me right in, started working on me, and I really didn't require that much work. I mean, checked me out, see what was going on, right, why I was there. And I left that day. After a few hours, I had chest x-ray. I walked out of there with 3 bottles of oxygen, which I kept for a couple of days and brought them back. The whole thing cost me out of pocket $0. The amount that the emergency room of the hospital in Estes Park there billed the insurance company, or that they showed the price, that is, was $8,000 to $10,000. I'm not sure. Of course, Medicare didn't pay that much for it. They would have negotiated it down.
Right.
And then I got over that. The next week, I had a scheduled procedure, angiogram. Another $8,000 to $10,000.
Oh my God!
Walked out.
Nothing. Right.
I did see a specialist while I was in there, and I had to pay him a couple of $100 for my deductible.
Right.
And that was it.
Now, let me see if I understand this right. This all happened in Colorado, right?
No, this happened in Colorado. I had 2 procedures scheduled in Houston when I got home.
Oh, when you got back.
Colorado thing, nothing to do with each other.
Right. Okay. So
this was an emergency. The Colorado was an emergency. The other was
So your Colorado bill would have turned out to be around $10,000 if you didn't have Medicare, Medigap.
Right.
Now, the reason,
if I was uninsured.
If you're uninsured. The reason that I wanted to bring you on to talk about that specific issue is that the reason this was so easy for you in Colorado was because you had standard Medicare.
That's right.
If you had Medicare Advantage, there would be so much trouble that you would have had to go through to actually to get care.
Exactly. And there's no telling where I might have ended up. I might have ended up down in Boulder or in Denver. In this case, I was a little further north. I was in Estes Park. I have a small medical facility there.
Right.
As far as I know, I don't know whether they got it approved or not. I don't know that it needed to be approved.
Right.
But there was never a question of approval that came up.
Because you had traditional
Medicare.
Standard Medicare.
And I've never been refused any medical care so far with the traditional Medicare and the Medigap.
Now, folks, the reason I really wanted Rick telling a real life story is because of all the other real life stories I've heard with people, Rick, that have Medicare Advantage. They would have to, they would be told, first of all, don't go to the emergency room, which I can understand for everybody, but go ahead and go to the whatever urgent care you can find. And you go to urgent care says, oh, no, we can't handle that. You got to go to the the emergency room. You have, there is, whenever for your own health care, now your oxygen level was at 81%. Brother, 82. That's 82%.
That's low.
That's
low.
Dangerous as hell. Your organs start to shut down when you have oxygen levels that low. Okay. Now, it's interesting because, again, if he had to do a little bit of waiting and calling and all of that,
it would have just gone down.
It would have gone down some more. He could have injured himself, much more brain issues, kidney issues. My thing to you guys is your life is worth too much for you to believe the crap that these Medicare Advantage folks are trying to tell you. You know what irked me? I saw a real well-respected, and they play this during the news hour on channel. This was on channel 13. They play it during the news hour. There is this former, I think he may still be a host, but I believe he's retired now. He's retired now. So it's not exactly a conflict of interest, but he is associated as being a reputable news person at Channel 13. And then I saw him promoting, and by the way, he was promoting Kelsey Sebold's Medicare Advantage, right? And look, Kelsey Sebold, before they became a private company who bought them out, I loved what they had to offer. They gave good service and all of that. Now they are into the for-profit domain, and they're really into Medicare Advantage. No, it wasn't him, but he's doing it too. Right. Just curious. Yeah. But this one was our Latino brother. Okay. So, so they are now, Andrew, into making a whole bunch of profit. And I see this guy selling this thing, Rick. Yep. And my heart sank, because I respect this particular host. I respect his ability to give us truthful news. Don't you think most of the people in Houston and surrounding areas, because it is him who's announcing, go ahead and get this Medicare Advantage plan, that somehow they're going to believe him that what he's saying is absolutely true without telling you the fine line. Andrew, your thoughts about that? Because it drove me insane, and not insane for me because I know better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is, I'm 24. I've grown up watching ABC 13.
Right.
This is a guy who I have grown up trusting.
Right.
And I don't know that it's smart to name him, unfortunately, but
I am not. You notice I didn't name him. Right.
Yeah. But if he's listening, he knows who he is, and it is disappointing to see that somebody who has cultivated this kind of trustworthiness would turn around and use it to sell products.
He sold it.
I will say there is an element of is he in a position that he is that he doesn't have any other option? Is he in a position where maybe his retirement package wasn't as good as it needed to be? This sort of thing, because it is very easy for personalities in media to build a following and then leave that world and find that there's nothing there. There aren't as many opportunities as they were hoping there could be. So, it is easy for people, even people like this newscaster, to get trapped in these situations because of capitalism. Right. But at the same time, you have to think about, is this ethical? And I don't know.
Andrew, let me tell you, I am not any newscaster like this guy, but I have a several thousand database of people, several thousand database of all, and I don't care how much you pay me. Right. And by the way, I could use some money right now. I'm just telling you, I could use some money right now, but I will not leverage those people that form a part of my loyal following, my database, etc., to go ahead and snow them into something that is deleterious. I couldn't do it and sleep at night. You know what I mean, Rick?
Absolutely. I'm agreeing with you. I think when you build up the trust as a journalist or a commentator, that you do kind of cross a line, even though you may need the money. Right. You're still dragging people that trust you into what you're talking about. And maybe that's good for the company you're representing, but that's not good for your public.
Right. That's what they're buying, right? They're buying access to they're saying, I want to use all those people that trust you and transfer your trust to have them go with us.
Buying credibility.
Right. And I think it's a lousy thing. Anyway, we are coming close to the end of the program. So let me ask you to give a closer on Medicare. Tell our folks why they must continue Medicare and forget about Medicare Advantage no matter what people are telling them.
Well, all I can tell you, Edberto, is it works for me.
Right.
I don't know if it'll work for anybody else, but I've been very happy with it. I have not had any of the problems I hear other people have with Medicare Advantage. Mm-hmm. So, all I can say, I can't tell you what to do because I think I'm putting my credibility on the line, but I can tell you what works for me.
Right.
And I would stand by that all day long.
Thank you so kindly, Rick Campbell, for telling us the rest of your story. Now, let me tell you, folks, this is important, right? And Rick just said something that I have to be cognizant of, and that is specifically this. He says this is what has worked for him. We've given you all the technical information as to why, if you have the wherewithal to go with standard Medicare, that is what you should do. There are some people that they have to take Medicare Advantage just because as bad as it is, as restricted as it is, that's the only choice that they have. As restricted as it is, that's the only choice that they have. So what I'm trying to tell all of you folks is, for those of you who have the wherewithal, do not be snowed by saving a few extra bucks a month. We're talking about your health. We're talking about your well-being. Don't allow the corporate state to change that. Don't allow the corporate state to change that, folks. Do not allow the corporate state to change that. Again, for those who have already signed up for Medicare Advantage, again, if you did that because you were, again, these salespeople, look, you put somebody like the newscasters that have developed a trust in us, who then sold their souls to these companies that we know are not in our best interests. that person can sell their credibility. I mean, one's credibility sometimes is transferable, right? In other words, if I go ahead and I tell you guys, hey man, this restaurant, they have great food that works good on your skin and da da da. You know that I'm not going to tell you any kind of BS, and you're going to say, oh well, Egberto said that stuff worked good. I should try it because he's not going to allow folks to know. And, reputation is so important. Credibility is so important. And that's why it behooves me how we have an economic system that lends itself to a form that allows people that are otherwise reputable to sell their souls, for a few extra dollars. Look, I'm going to tell you, like I said there, it is easy to do. Wow. Let me tell you, advertising budget with these companies are generally larger than your research and development budget. It's generally larger than their budgets to do good. When insurance salespeople, I remember when I lived in the A-Leaf part of Houston, and I'm going to come to the chat in a minute, folks. When I lived in the A-Leaf portion, there was a time I was developing ComDRV. I remember well. That's my signature product, my signature third product that I released from the time I started my software company. And things were really bad. And the sales of this particular product was horrendous. And, I don't even think my wife knew how bad things were because I was very good at robbing Peter to pay Paul and robbing Paul to pay John and all that kind of stuff, right? And it was a time when there was this, what was it called? It was a company that sold insurance. I can't remember the name of it right now. It was a sort of that multi-level marketing type insurance sales thing. And it started out that if you sold a policy, 50% of the premium that year, just going into it, 50% of the premium you made. So if you sold a policy and it was that person paid $3,000 that year, that was a $1,500 check. As you grew in the company, meaning selling more, you sell a policy for $3,000, you get 100% of the first year, $3,000, and then you get a residual for everybody who's ever bought a policy from you. And let's say the residual is 10% or something like that. You keep selling policy after policy after policy after policy. You become a rich person selling insurance, right? Because you're getting all your residuals from the people who re-up on the policies. And all you have to do is make sure to show those people that you sold those policies to. You call them once a year. Please don't forget to re-up your policy. We're a good company, all that good stuff. But you're still selling new policies. And after you reach a certain level, it's not 100% of the policy that you get. It's like 125% of the policy. So you sell a policy for $3,000. They assume that you're going to have your policy renewed. So they'll give you, for that $3,000, they'll give you, instead of $3,000, they may give you $3,800, an extra money for every policy that you sell. To be able to, why are they willing to put so much money into marketing, the salesperson, and not the R&D, and not reducing the cost for the people who you're buying the policy for? Because it's a damn crooked business where most of the money isn't made by the folks in service. Most of the money isn't made by folks that are doing research and development. Most of the money isn't made by the folks that are actually doing something. That's the type of economic system we are in. That's the type of economic system. Before I go to the others, let me jump back to the chat so I can answer whatever is in there. I'm posting from reputable sources, including directly from government websites. That is good. It is interesting. Guys like Brother John Smith in the chat here, he does not want to hear he likes Trump, and that's okay. And in order to support his own candidate, he doesn't care what truthful information you get because it doesn't fit his narrative. He looks for a narrative for his truth, not the truth, but his truth. Here's the deal. You cannot do anything about that, nor do I try to. I'm not trying to convince John Smith or any other, let's say, any other conservative in our chat that has no desire of hearing truth. But what we can do with those conservatives who continue to bring this misinformation is, because we read the misinformation and we have the misinformation here and we refute the misinformation, the good work that you're doing here, Michael and Bridge and others, in the ethos, in the internet space, people will run across the misinformation that they once believed. And once you refute it with, as you said, Rudnin, with reputable sites, you would have changed minds. We are not into changing John Smith's mind. John Smith chooses to be what I call willfully ignorant. And I say that with respect, Mr. Smith, but he chooses willful ignorance. I mean, he chooses to be ignorant on these issues. You can't help that, but you can help those who are really looking for the truth. Lee Grant says, Egberto, I don't understand your reference this person as one who it must not be named. You are talking about longtime Houston newsman and you gave the name. Yeah, maybe. Bridge MCP says, AVQ Rudnin knows exactly what he's saying. It's not from Fox at all. And Fox is not a news channel. Fox News is just a moniker. It has nothing to do with real news. And unfortunately, there are folks who Fox News says, our audience want to hear these lies. The audience wants to hear these lies. And that's what we give them. That's what they said. They know the truth. You listen to the text that they have in between themselves. They know the truth. But they know that there's a John Smith out there who needs to be willfully ignorant on the issues so that he can feel okay to support Donald Trump and other sycophants, because in doing so, it fits his narrative of that he needs to give some legitimacy to the bad beliefs he has. Can't help that there. All right. Carl Cox says, as has been stated, the conservative solution for universal health care is when you get sick, die. My friend, Congressman, why can I never remember my congressman buddy's name? I got to look it up in my phone book. But, you know, I love that piece that he does. When you get sick, die. Republican. Let's see if something comes up. Yep. It's funny because that's all you got to put in there. And I came up to the video right away. It's funny. Alan Grayson is the name of the guy. Alan Grayson is the guy. And look, Rudnin found it too. I tell you, I got my peeps in here. All right, who else did I not shout out in here? E2247, I think I shouted you out. Carl Cox, I shouted you out. Bridge MCP says Trump has provided no evidence that he did declassify the papers. An appeals court noted Wednesday as it rejected his team's legal argument and cleared the way for investigation. He never showed that he declassified, but even if he did, right? He has, he lied, but that's for another day. E224 says, so tired of being a folk arguing about whether to teach critical thinking to tots. For God's sake, grow up and cut the BS. You're right. Ella Taran, welcome. Will you report on corruption in family court Santa Clara? We are parents, victims of huge corruption, teaming up judges, lawyers, and police. Please help us. Ella Taran, send an email to info@politicsdoneright.com. info@politicsdoneright.com with background information. I'm here in Texas. I don't know what's going on in Santa Clara, but if you can tell me what you're talking about, then I can actually either try to get involved or get folks in the activist community involved out there. We have teams of guys who do activism all over the country. After all, it's on the board of Move to Amend and Coffee Party, so we can find folks to get involved with you out there. Carl Cox says, health insurance is a scam. Some are worse than others. Yes, they are. Absolutely, they are. What else have we got? Some are far worse than others. Let's see what else. Egberto, one for the screen. Old meme. The named bill is dead. All right, let's go ahead and put it on the screen because Rudnin wants it on the screen. Rudnin gets it on the screen. It says, health insurance is a scam run by middlemen that adds no value to the product. That's what we talk about all the time. The U.S. spends double what the rest of the world does on healthcare vehicle while getting worse results and less care. Demand universal healthcare via H.R. 676, Medicare for All. That's an old one because it's no longer H.R. 676. I think, look it up. I can't remember what it is, but Medicare for All is no longer H.R. 676. In fact, I'm scared to figure out what H.R. 676 is now. It may be something all kind of crazy because there's so much H.R. 676 out there now that somebody may try to have a new H.R. 676 and God knows what comes of that. Anyhow, continuing, we got Daniel Ledo says, been here just 2 minutes and already Egberto is assigning intent to Donald Trump supporters. 1, what is your count at for today? How you doing, Brother Ledo? Nice to see you. Daniel Ledo, you're from Michael Rudnin. Daniel Ledo, your intents are often more apparently clear. We take you at your word when you put your BS in here. Conservatives don't know how to do satire. Michael also said, copy paste. All right. He wants me to copy paste. I think he means he wants Rudnin to see it or hear it. I just read it. All right. I want to play you a piece. And this piece, what I say is, I think even though Stephanie Ruhle does not or would not understand what she is saying, proves much of what Bernie Sanders, myself, and others have said. Well, Bernie Sanders have said Wall Street's business model is a fraud. You know, that's what Bernie says. My contention is that our entire economic system is a fraud. And I think she did a good job in pointing that out in this little segment here. Let's listen to it, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I know that the Silicon Valley Bank situation is different, but bigger than that. This is different from 2008, okay? There's not that much lever in the system. We don't have a housing bubble under us. However, we are coming off a decade of free money, zero interest rates. Pile in there the SPAC craze, the crypto craze, NFTs, inflationary pressures, the government pumping trillions of COVID dollars into the system, and then interest rates getting hiked over the last year. Is it not fair to say the system is kind of fragile?
So this is why I think there's been the sell-off, right? There's that famous phrase, which I used on your show before, which Warren Buffett always says, no one knows who's swimming naked until the water goes out. Suddenly the water's coming out. Who has been taking that free money and doing bad things about it? The problem is the financial press, even the regulators, have a hard time looking into those banks and finding out where people have been over leveraged. We found out a little bit too late that was Silicon Valley Bank. Same thing happened in Britain, if you remember, when they had this gilt crisis where there was these strange debt structures that everyone got freaked out about. What people are worried about is exactly what you said. Were people doing bad things with this money? And if so, where? Because as we said, for 10 years, if you're getting free money, there's someone around the system who's been doing bad things with it. The nervousness from the financial press as well, because we should be watching this stuff, is I have no idea where it is. The regulators don't know where it is, and the markets don't know where it is. That's why there's been this massive sell-off.
Okay, even if they added regulation tomorrow, that's not going to do anything to change the fragility of the system. What could is the Fed meeting next week. We had been expecting that they were going to continue to raise rates. I know you don't have a crystal ball, Peter, but how much is Jay Powell looking at this and saying, I might need to take a pause here?
So 2 points on this. The markets are now thinking that he's going to slow down for 2 reasons. One, if the banking system is now going to freeze up a bit, which means they're not going to be lending to you and me.
Which it's fair to say they are going to freeze up a bit, especially for small and mid-sized banks. This lending bonanza that's been going on for all these years, they can't be doing that in the near future. So that is slowing down the economy and will slow down inflation without them needing to raise rates.
The other thing is more macroprudential, as I call it.
What word did you say?
Macroprudential. I'm sorry for using this.
Did you make that word up?
In polite company. Basically,
Ivy League just showed up.
Much like Silicon Valley Bank, there are banks that have bonds on their balance sheet. This is how they were supposed to be safe. And as the Fed has been raising rates, those assets have become less. So the banking system itself is becoming weaker as the Fed raised rates. So they have to worry about how their rates affects the real economy, but also how it affects the banking system. And Wall Street is now betting that they may just take a pause. We're thinking about maybe 25 basis points. We saw even early last week when a lot of the inflation numbers look bad, maybe 50 basis points. Now people are thinking maybe he takes a pause. It's a tough one. They're right now in their silent period ahead of the meeting. So we haven't had any Fed people be able to talk to us, but that's going to be the thing to watch. As you said, Congress closing the barn door after the horse escapes is not going to matter. It's going to matter what Jay Powell does next week.
Yes, it's going to matter what Jake Powell does next week. But think about all the things that they just said there. It's amazing, right? In other words, wait a minute. You mean asset doesn't really mean assets anymore? Do you mean that we can determine what the value of those assets are going to be? That's what the feds are saying. We are going to loan you money, and based on the asset, the nominal value of these assets, even if in the market they go down. But here is the kicker: that what has occurred? Nothing. Factories continue to work. People continue to go to work every day. Their factories are making Campbell soup. Factories continue to build cars. All these things remain the same. I want you guys to understand this. Everything that they are talking about has nothing to do with the economy moving around. It has everything to do with what's occurring on the banking level of people playing with money, right? Money is the exchange money is what we use as an intermediary traded mechanism. I want corn. You want asparagus. And if I want to get corn from that third person he doesn't have asparagus, he has the corn, I can trade using money so that it's the intermediary. I buy corn with money. That person who wants asparagus buys asparagus with money. That other person who wants something else takes that money to get the something else that they sold, having sold asparagus and corn to get the money. I wasn't too clear in that one. What I like to talk about is money is just an abstracting factor. And sadly, abstracting factor meaning I may want corn, you may want something else. Or I may sell corn, you may give me money, and then that allows me to buy something else. It is just an abstracting layer, nothing more, right? That's what money is. But those guys who run our economic system, they play with that abstracting layer. They get additional funds with that abstracting layer. And then when they screw up, because we use money as our abstracting layer for trading, right? Why do we need that abstracting layer? It's because what you have to sell or what you want to buy I may not have the particular thing for you, so I exchange it for money. What you want to buy or what you have to sell to me, I may not want for what I want to sell to you. So I take money from you so that I can buy what I really want to buy from another person. So that's all money is, that intermediary step for trade. But the capitalist system, the economic system, builds something on top of that layer. And they make money off of money, not off of producing work, producing a service, producing a product. When we talk about it being fraudulent, this is not an exercise in, oh, you must be some communist or some socialist. That's not it. We do not believe that people should be making money for doing nothing, which is what stockbrokers and all these other guys who simply make money on gambling, trading are doing. And the problem is they can affect the money supply in such a manner that it affects the Campbell factory making soup. the other factor making ground beef and all these things together, they can hold those things hostage, which is what happens. You heard what he said. We think that lending is going to lock up because of what these guys did. Why have I spoken about nationalizing the bank? Not for some communist domain. It's because if the money supply is not controlled by those who are doing all kinds of profit-making things that have nothing to do with exchanging services and work, then the economy could be stabilized. But as it is right now, our economy, and by the way, for those who may think, what are you talking about? You're an engineer, you're not an economist. I did study economics as well as a minor and learned enough about economics to understand the fraudulent nature of our economic system. And it was designed that way to ensure that a class can remain and hold on to their power. It's hard for many to accept that because, again, we want to sing glory, glory, hallelujah. We have the best economic system in the world. And by the way, this isn't just the United States, etc. It's all over the world because we are the dominant economic system. So when people tell me things like, well, I haven't seen any other system work around the world that's any better. Well, if you're a superpower and you don't allow any other system to work, or you don't allow the attempt at anybody trying any other system to work and then say, I haven't seen any other system work, which is what we as the West do to every other part of the world. No other country can really get a system going. Why? Because again, I was listening to a TikTok. Yeah, TikTok has some very critical thinkers on there. And I'm telling you, I was listening to a TikTok that said, wait a minute. The largest debtor country in the world is the United States of America. Largest debtor country in the world, United States and America. How comes they're not talking about defaulting or how comes there's not a problem there? But in different countries in Africa, when they have a debt, they're stifled by the IMF, who charges them large interest rates in order that they cannot really get out of the conditions that they find themselves in from having borrowed the money from the IMF to do their job. It's a con, right? You hold them in chains with debt that they can't get out of or can't refinance because of how much it costs. And then you take their resource, you take their land, you take all of this to pay for this debt that is in denominated American dollars. You want to be honest, give debt in the local currency of whatever country you're in, as opposed to having this special kind of money, because when you create your own money and you can print as much as you want. And you can say, as long as there's and that's something that we've always known, long as there's no shortages, we can print as much money as we want. We can lend as much money as we want in dollars, and we can hold other countries hostage that owe less money per capita than we do, and still do just fine. I wish more people, specifically more Americans, understood how economies work and how money actually work. Because if they did, first of all, they would be a whole lot more compassionate to the rest of the world. They would be a whole lot more compassionate to their fellow Americans, not only the world, but Americans, as they realize that much of the ills that affect us today is generated by a few to the top, who need to have us at each other's throat, who needs to make sure that we don't have critical thinking. Because if we actually had critical thinking, this system would be changed drastically. Brother Jules Ray Winfield says, hey, Berto, I can't help but realize when the Fed decides to raise interest rates, there's no discrimination in terms of who gets hurt. Why isn't there a separate interest rate for consumers as there is for business that's just adjusted according to what the consumer threshold can bear? Man, Jules, that is an extremely smart statement. We would never do it because the goal is never to assist the common person. The common person has to be there ready to take the brunt. That's why when I've been in certain symposiums and we were talking about, I remember a symposium I had with a liberal, a progressive, middle of the road guy, and myself, who was the left winger. And I started to bring up ideas as far as what we need to do to support people and why that would be an economic boon for everybody. And the guy said the only thing that concerns him, how would it affect business? Then I told him that's the wrong question. We should determine the type of society that we want and then decide how we allow business to operate in the society that we decide we want to have. John Smith says, Egberto, the banks are in trouble because of a central bank, a government system. Let's be clear. The central bank are a consortium of private banks. There is no real public bank other than in North Dakota, which is the only banking system that has consistently worked well. Why? Because they don't have the type of issues that you have in the private sector where you can go off and rip the system off. Please do a little bit of reading, Brother Smith. Please, please, please. Please. Marquette and Michigan State both win today. They will play each other Elite Eight. What a game that will be. Egberto, the start-off system works well until those countries throw away their dollar reserves and flood the international base. We gave Iraq a punishment beating for doing exactly this in 2003. Bree says alcohol business is good today in the U.S. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Bridge MCP. Sorry for not calling you out on that. I had one more video, but I'm not going to show it because I only have 4 minutes left. Carl Cox says, John Smith, the banks are in trouble because of deregulation allowed by corrupt bribe politicians that is allowed by... Look, we already have a nationalized banking system because whenever they get in trouble, we bail them out. So why only have a nationalized system when they're in trouble so they take our money? And when they're making a lot of money, they don't give it back to us, right? Egberto, so how would your government system run banking system be different? When would it be the same people having to run the bank? Let me tell you the difference. We create and destroy money, okay? However, banks work on a profit base. So what they do is and Dodd-Frank used to have where you had to separate investment banking from standard banking. I only believe in standard banking. All those guys who want to sell stocks and all of that, I think we should have a specific part of our system that's just called legalized casino. That's what I would call the stock market, legalized casino, right? But anyway, the banking sector would be completely away from that. The banking sector is there to loan money. The money that you are loaned, or rather the deposits go into the bank. When the deposits go into the bank has the ability to lend it out. And there's this stuff called a demand deposit, which means to keep the money supply from increasing infinitely by loan. What you do is you create a demand deposit that says 10% of the money has to remain in the bank. So after you've loaned out all but 10% of that money, it stays in the bank. That goes into other banks. They loan money up to 10%, etc. How do you handle runs on banks? There would never be a problem with having runs on banks because if people run on the bank because it is controlled by we the people, they get the monies that they want. We create and destroy money. If you want to take the money out of the bank and put it in another bank, it's a nationalized system. Your money is always covered. Your money is always there. It's only putting the private sector in there that creates a problem because you could lose your money. Now, if you have a nationalized bank, all monies go into the bank that you want in there. When you're ready to take it out, you take it out. What's the interest rate? The feds decide what the interest rate is going to be, right? And the same reason that they have interest rates here for slowing things down or whatever they can do if they want to. but there is not a profit motive that allows these people to go gamble your money, create derivatives, and all these other financial instruments that screw most of us as it enriches a few. And then when they get in trouble, we bail them out. They don't want you to think critically, is what I continue to tell you guys. They don't want you to think, what if? They want to tell you how things have to be. You listen to Stephanie Ruhle, very smart woman. And her tone completely changed after this collapse because she needed to play the game. Federal Reserve is not a federal agency. It's made of bankers, private bankers. Anyhow, we are at 4 o'clock. I only missed one video today. Maybe I'll clean it up, do a little something with it, and fix it up. So, Alistair Waters, John Smith, Egberto, you still have to have people manage the banks. These people who screwed up the banks were leftists like you. You can't screw up don't you get a nationalized bank you cannot screw up? You cannot screw up a nationalized bank. You just need somebody there to run the tables. You can't screw it up. That's the point. But again, that we'll have to cover that another day. Anyway, before I go, real quickly, I forgot to do my ask as usual. So I'm going to just give you one link and ask you guys so kindly to please support the program. How can you support this program? We have only one link I need to give you, and that is politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. Please support our program best you can. You have all different options, different manners in which you can support the program at that link. So if you will, please kindly support it either through PayPal, Patreon, YouTube, Facebook store, books, whatever form. We do need your support. We cannot do this without you at all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.